Jack Reeves looked up from his scanner with furrowed brows. The readings didn't make sense. He was alone on the rocky terrain of planet ZX-419, about a kilometer from where the Horizon had landed for their survey mission. Base camp, this is Reeves. I'm getting some strange biosignatures over in Sector 7. Going to check it out. Copy that, Lieutenant. Captain Olivia Winter's voice crackled through his comm. Remember protocol. Observe only. Will do, Captain, Jack said, already moving toward the unusual readings. The landscape was harsh. Jagged rocks jutted from rust-colored soil under a pale green sky. Jack climbed over a ridge and froze. In a small hollow lay a creature he'd only seen in training videos and warning briefings. A Vraxian. The massive predator was nearly 3 meters long, with iridescent scales shifting between deep purple and midnight blue. 6 powerful limbs ended in razor-sharp claws, and a ridge of spines ran along its back. But what caught Jack's attention was the dark fluid seeping from a wound in its side. The creature was injured. Every instinct told Jack to back away. Vraxians were known throughout settled space as the galaxy's most lethal predators. No peaceful contact had ever been established. Every encounter on record had ended in bloodshed. But the xenobiologist in him couldn't look away. The Vraxian's breathing was labored, its massive chest rising and falling in irregular patterns. Jack's comm buzzed. Reeves, what's your status? Winters asked. He hesitated. Captain, I found a Vraxian. Silence stretched for several seconds. Return to the ship immediately, Lieutenant. That's an order. It's injured, Captain. Badly. All the more dangerous. Return now. Jack watched as the creature's eyes opened. 4 of them, glowing amber with vertical pupils. They fixed on him with startling intelligence. I'm sorry, Captain. I can't just leave it. Jack slowly set down his pack and removed a medical scanner. The Vraxian tracked his movements but made no attempt to attack. If anything, it seemed to be assessing him. I'm going to try to help you, Jack said softly, knowing the creature couldn't understand him, but hoping his tone might convey his intentions. He approached cautiously. The Vraxian's muscles tensed, but it remained still. Jack activated his scanner and swept it over the wound, a deep gash that appeared to have been caused by some kind of energy weapon. Poachers, Jack muttered. Hunting Vraxians was illegal but lucrative. Their scales were valuable on the black market. His comm exploded with the captain's voice. Reeves, what the hell are you doing? Get back here now. The Vraxian's eyes narrowed at the loud noise. Jack quickly muted his comm. Easy there, he said, reaching slowly into his pack for a medical kit. I just want to help. To his amazement, the creature relaxed slightly, its head tilting as it watched him prepare a synthetic skin patch and antibiotic spray. This might sting, Jack warned as he applied the spray to the wound. The Vraxian hissed but didn't strike. Jack quickly applied the patch, which would help the wound heal and prevent infection. As he worked, he felt the creature's eyes studying him with unmistakable curiosity. There was intelligence there, far more than the reports suggested. You're not just a mindless predator, are you? Jack murmured. When he finished, the Vraxian slowly rose to a sitting position. Jack backed away, giving it space. Instead of attacking, it made a series of clicking sounds followed by a low rumble. Was it thanking him? A shuttle roared overhead. Through his comm, Jack could hear the captain organizing a retrieval team. I have to go, Jack told the Vraxian. But I'll come back. The creature watched him for a moment, then made another series of sounds. It raised one clawed limb and touched its chest, then extended the limb toward Jack. Against every protocol he'd been taught, Jack reached out his hand. The Vraxian gently pressed one claw to Jack's palm. Something changed in that moment. Jack didn't understand what, but he knew his life would never be the same. Jack couldn't sleep that night. The image of the injured Vraxian kept appearing in his mind. He knew the creature would not survive without proper medical care. The synthetic patch he'd applied was only a temporary solution. At 300 hours, Jack made his decision. He packed a larger medical kit, some rations, and a portable translator. The ship was quiet as he slipped out of his quarters and made his way to the cargo bay. "Going somewhere, Lieutenant." Jack turned to find Dr. Susan Miller leaning against the doorway. "Susan, I can explain." "Save it," she said, holding up a hand. "I saw your medical report. You're going back for the Vraxian, aren't you?" Jack nodded. "You realize that's insane, right? Those things have killed hundreds of people." "This one's different," Jack insisted. "It could have attacked me, but it didn't. There was intelligence in its eyes." Susan sighed. "I should report you, but you won't." After a moment, she handed him a small case. "Advanced tissue regenerator. Use it on the deepest part of the wound first." Jack smiled. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. If you're not back in 4 hours, I'm telling the captain." Jack took a small rover and returned to where he found the Vraxian. To his surprise, the creature was still there, lying in the same hollow. It raised its head as Jack approached, making a series of clicking sounds. "Hey there," Jack said softly. "I brought better medicine." The Vraxian watched curiously as Jack unpacked his supplies. He activated the translator, though he doubted it would work with an unknown language. "I'm Jack," he said, pointing to himself. The Vraxian seemed to understand the gesture. It touched its chest with a claw and made a sound like Kaztar. "Kaztar, is that your name?" The creature made an affirmative-sounding rumble. Jack worked on the wound while talking softly. The Vraxian remained still, occasionally making sounds that the translator couldn't decipher. "You understand me, don't you?" Jack asked. "Much more than anyone thinks you can." Kaztar blinked its 4 eyes in sequence. After an hour, Jack had done all he could. The wound looked better, but Kaztar was still weak. "You need food and rest somewhere safe," Jack said, making eating gestures. Kaztar suddenly tensed. Looking past Jack, Jack turned to see Ben Lawson, the ship's engineering specialist, standing a few meters away with a stunner aimed at the Vraxian. "Step away from it, Jack," Ben ordered. "Ben, wait. He's not dangerous. That thing is the deadliest predator in the galaxy." Kaztar made no move to attack, though its muscles were coiled and ready. "If that were true, I'd be dead already," Jack said calmly. "He's injured and needs our help. The captain sent me to find you. She knows what you're doing." Jack's heart sank. "What are you going to do?" Ben hesitated, lowering the stunner slightly. "Is it really docile?" "Not docile. Intelligent. Different from what we've been told." Ben approached cautiously. Kaztar watched him, but remained still. "I'm trying to save him," Jack explained. "But I can't do it out here." Ben looked between Jack and the Vraxian. "You want to bring it onto the ship? That's crazy." "What's crazy is leaving an intelligent being to die when we can help." Ben ran a hand through his hair. "The captain will have us both court-martialed." "Probably." After a long moment, Ben sighed. "I can convert Cargo Bay 3 into a secure medical area. But if that thing so much as growls wrong, I'm spacing it." Jack grinned. "Thank you." Together, they managed to get Kaztar into the rover. The Vraxian was surprisingly cooperative, though clearly in pain. As they approached the ship, Jack's comm activated. "Lieutenant Reeves." Captain Winter's voice was ice-cold. "Report to my quarters immediately upon return." "Yes, Captain," Jack responded, catching Ben's worried look. Kaztar made a soft, rumbling sound and placed a claw gently on Jack's arm, as if sensing his concern. In that moment, Jack knew he'd made the right choice, no matter the consequences. Jack stood at attention in Captain Winter's office, his back straight and his eyes forward. The captain paced behind her desk, her face flushed with anger. "Do you understand what you've done, Lieutenant? You've brought the most dangerous predator in known space onto my ship. With respect, Captain, I believe our understanding of Vraxians is wrong." Jack said. "Based on what?" A few hours with an injured specimen. She stopped pacing and looked directly at him. You've endangered this entire crew. Castar has had multiple opportunities to attack, yet he hasn't. That contradicts everything we've been told about Vraxian behavior. The captain's comm unit beeped. She answered it with a sharp, "What?" "Captain, it's Dr. Miller. You should come to Cargo Bay 3. Minutes later, Captain Winters, Jack, and security officer Lisa Blackwell entered the makeshift containment area. Castar was sitting upright, while Susan examined his wound with a scanner. The Vraxian's eyes tracked the newcomers, focusing especially on Blackwell's weapon. "It's allowing medical treatment," the captain said, surprise evident in her voice. Jack corrected gently. "And yes, he seems to understand we're helping him." Castar made a series of clicks and rumbles. Ben, who was monitoring the containment field, looked up. "I've been recording his sounds," he said. "There's definitely a pattern. I think it's language." Captain Winters observed the Vraxian carefully. "Even if that's true, it doesn't change the fact that we have orders about Vraxian encounters." "What orders?" Jack asked. "Terminate on sight," Blackwell said flatly, her hand resting on her sidearm. "They're classified as a Class 1 threat species." Jack stepped between Blackwell and Castar. "Based on what evidence? Has anyone ever really studied them?" "The evidence is the 17 colonies they've raided and the hundreds of lives lost," Blackwell replied. Castar suddenly made a new sound, a low, sustained tone. He pointed a claw at the ship's computer terminal. "I think he wants to communicate," Susan said. Jack moved to the terminal and brought up a simple drawing program. Castar watched intently. "Go ahead," Jack said, gesturing to the screen. With surprising dexterity, Castar extended a claw and began to draw. The crew watched in amazement as a rough image took shape, a Vraxian and a smaller figure that looked like a human, standing side by side. "Is that us?" Susan asked. Castar made an affirmative rumble. The comm system suddenly blared with an incoming message. "Horizon, this is Admiral Davis. We've received report of a Vraxian specimen aboard. Confirm immediately." Everyone looked at Captain Winters. After a moment, she answered, "Confirmed, Admiral." "Captain Winters, your orders are to terminate the specimen and preserve it for research. A science vessel will rendezvous with you in 48 hours. Jack felt his heart sink. "Understood, Admiral," the captain replied before ending the communication. Blackwell immediately drew her weapon. "I'll handle this, Captain." "Wait," Jack pleaded. "Captain, you've seen it yourself. He's intelligent. This could be first contact with a misunderstood species." Castar seemed to sense the tension. He slowly stood up, his full height impressive even in his weakened state. Rather than appearing threatening, he deliberately sat back down and placed all 6 limbs in a visible, non-aggressive position. "Look at that," Susan said quietly. "He's trying to appear non-threatening." The captain stared at Castar for a long moment. "Blackwell, stand down for now." "Captain." "That's an order, Lieutenant. I want to see where this goes." Blackwell reluctantly holstered her weapon. Castar relaxed visibly. "You have 24 hours, Reeves," the captain said. "Show me evidence this creature isn't what everyone thinks it is. After that, I follow orders." Jack nodded. "Thank you, Captain." After the others left, Jack sat near Castar. "I don't know if you understand what just happened, but we're running out of time." Castar reached out and placed a claw gently on Jack's shoulder. In that simple gesture, Jack felt something profound, not just intelligence, but empathy. "We're going to figure this out," he promised. Somehow, Jack worked through the night with Diane Powell, the ship's science officer. They analyzed Castar's vocalizations and developed a rudimentary translation algorithm. By morning, they could understand about 20% of what the Vraxian was saying. "It's remarkable," Diane said, rubbing her tired eyes. "His language is complex, with tonal variations that carried different meanings depending on the accompanying clicks. Jack nodded, equally exhausted but too excited to rest. Try the new algorithm. Diane activated the translator. Castar, can you understand us? The Vraxian's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Understand. Partially. Jack, friend. Yes, Jack said, smiling. I'm your friend. Castar made a series of sounds that the translator converted to humans think, Vraxians, monsters. Not true. Why do humans think that? Diane asked. Long ago, misunderstanding. Humans attacked. Vraxian peace ship, thought. We were invading. Jack leaned forward. A peace ship. You were trying to make contact. Yes, Vraxians were peacekeepers of stars. We protected smaller species. The translator struggled with the next series of sounds, but they understood enough. 300 years ago, Vraxians had approached human colonies to establish diplomatic relations, due to their fearsome appearance and a translator malfunction. Humans believed they were under attack and fired first. The Vraxian raiders, Diane said quietly. They weren't raiders at all, were they? Castar's scales shifted to a darker shade. Some Vraxians, angry at humans, wanted revenge. Others wanted peace. Civil war among us. And now, Jack asked, few of us left. Hide on home planet. Hunted, almost extinct. The revelation hit Jack like a physical blow. An entire species, once the peacekeepers of the galaxy, reduced to hiding because of a misunderstanding centuries ago. Where is your home planet? Diane asked. Castar hesitated, then moved to the star map display. With precision, he indicated a system in an uncharted sector. Vraxia Prime, he said. Last home. The ship's comm system activated. Lieutenant Reeves, report to the bridge immediately, Captain Winters ordered. Jack exchanged a worried look with Diane. Keep working with him. I'll be back. On the bridge, Captain Winters looked grim. We've received new orders. We're to return to Earth immediately. Admiral Davis is sending an armed escort to meet us halfway. Captain, we've made a breakthrough, Jack said urgently. Castar can communicate with us. The Vraxians aren't what we thought. I know, she interrupted. I've been monitoring your progress. That's why I'm telling you this personally. She lowered her voice. They're going to take him, Jack. Study him, dissect him. They won't care about what you've discovered. Jack felt cold dread settle in his stomach. We can't let that happen. My orders are clear. We rendezvous with the escort in 10 hours. And if Castar were to somehow escape before then? Jack asked carefully. Captain Winters looked at him steadily. I would be obligated to report the escape and pursue. But the Horizon isn't the fastest ship in the fleet. If a head start were obtained, she left the sentence unfinished. Jack understood. Thank you, Captain. I don't know what you're talking about, Lieutenant. Dismissed. Jack hurried back to Cargo Bay 3. Diane was showing Castar human history on a datapad. We have a problem, Jack told them, explaining the situation. Castar's reaction surprised them. Not unexpected. I will surrender myself. What? No, Jack protested. One life, to save many. If I die. But humans learn truth about Vraxians. Worth it. Jack shook his head firmly. No one's sacrificing themselves. We're getting you home. Diane looked worried. How? We're in deep space. There's a way, Jack said, thinking quickly. But we'll need help. As they began planning, Castar placed a claw on the star map again, indicating his home planet. My people will welcome you, he said. First human to visit Vraxia Prime. In centuries. Jack nodded, determination replacing fear. And I won't be the last. The Horizon docked at Outpost 7, a small trading station at the edge of settled space. Captain Winters had arranged the stop, citing a need for fresh supplies before the rendezvous with Admiral Davis's ships. Jack, Diane, and Susan had spent the last 6 hours finalizing their plan. Ryan Cooper, the junior engineer who had befriended Kaz-Tar over shared meals, was also part of the escape team. "The scout ship is fueled and ready," Ryan whispered as they walked toward Cargo Bay 3. "I've programmed the navigation system with the coordinates for Vraxia Prime." Jack nodded. "How much time will we have?" 10 minutes, maybe less. Once you activate the launch sequence, security will be alerted." They entered the cargo bay to find Kaz-Tar waiting. The Vraxian's wounds were almost completely healed, his scales now shimmering with health. "Everything ready?" Jack asked. "Yes," Kaz-Tar replied through the translator. "But risk, too great for you." "We've been through this," Jack said. "I'm coming with you." Susan handed Jack a bag. "Medical supplies, rations, and a better translator I programmed with everything we've learned about Vraxian language." "What about the diversion?" Diane asked. Ryan grinned. "Starting now." Throughout the ship, systems began to malfunction. Lights flickered, air circulation reversed, and alarms blared in multiple sections. "Security will be scrambling," Ryan said. "That gives us our window." They moved quickly, Kaz-Tar following Jack through the corridors. The few crew members they encountered were too busy with the malfunctions to notice them. The small scout ship was docked in the auxiliary hangar. As they approached, Lisa Blackwell stepped out from behind a cargo container, weapon raised. "I knew you'd try something like this," she said. Jack positioned himself in front of Kaz-Tar. "Lisa, please. You've seen how he is. You know the truth now." "What I know is that Admiral Davis offered a substantial reward for the Vraxian." Kaz-Tar stepped forward, despite Jack's attempt to protect him. "Human female. Angry. Scared. Why?" Blackwell's weapon didn't waver. "My family was on Terra Nova Colony. The official report said it was raided by Vraxians." "When?" Kaz-Tar asked. 22 years ago." Kaz-Tar's scales shifted to a deep blue. "Terra Nova, not Vraxians, was Cronus Corporation. Wanted mining rights. Blamed us." "How could you possibly know that?" Blackwell demanded. "Vraxians tried to help survivors. Were attacked. Left evidence of true attackers." Blackwell's hand trembled slightly. "You're lying." "Search ship records," Diane suggested quickly. "Encrypted files, security level 8. I found references while researching." Long seconds passed as Blackwell considered this. Finally, she lowered her weapon. "Get out of here. I never saw you." They didn't waste time arguing. Jack and Kaz-Tar boarded the scout ship while Diane and Ryan returned to their posts to minimize suspicion. Jack powered up the engines as Kaz-Tar settled into the co-pilot seat, his large frame barely fitting. Launching in 3, 2, 1. The scout ship detached from the horizon and accelerated away from Outpost 7. For 5 minutes, there was no pursuit. "We might actually make it," Jack said hopefully. The ship's sensors suddenly blared a warning. 3 vessels were approaching fast. "Not Horizon," Kaz-Tar observed, looking at the scanner. "Mercenary ships," Jack realized. "Someone must have leaked our plan." The lead ship fired a warning shot across their bow. "They want us to surrender," Jack said. Kaz-Tar moved his claws across the control panel with surprising skill. "I can fly," was pilot, before injury. Jack hesitated, then moved aside. "Show me what you can do." What happened next amazed him. Kaz-Tar piloted the small scout ship with incredible precision, diving into a nearby asteroid field where the larger mercenary ships couldn't follow easily. "Hold tight," Kaz-Tar warned as he executed a series of maneuvers that strained the ship's structural integrity. A mercenary ship attempting to follow struck an asteroid and spun out of control. The other 2 fell back, unwilling to risk the same fate. "That was incredible," Jack said when they emerged from the asteroid field. Kaz-Tar made a sound the translator interpreted as laughter. "Not all Vraxians are warriors. Some are pilots." As they set course for Vraxia Prime, Jack felt both excitement and apprehension. He was about to become the first human in centuries to visit the Vraxian homeworld. "They will welcome you," Kastar assured him, "as I welcomed you." The journey to Vraxia Prime took 3 days. Jack spent the time learning more about Vraxian culture and language from Kastar. The more they spoke, the better the translator worked. "My people will be surprised to see human," Kastar said as they approached the planet. "Some will be afraid, some angry." "I understand," Jack replied. 300 years of hostility won't disappear overnight." The planet came into view, a world of deep blues and purples, with swirling cloud patterns unlike anything Jack had seen before. Kastar sent a series of coded transmissions, identifying himself and explaining the situation. "They allow us to land," he said finally. "But be prepared. Council not convinced of your friendship." Their ship descended through the atmosphere to a city built into massive purple-hued mountains. The architecture was both beautiful and intimidating, angular structures with flowing lines that somehow reminded Jack of Kastar's own form. A landing pad extended from one of the structures. Kastar guided the ship down with practiced ease. "Stay behind me," he instructed as the hatch opened. "Show no fear, no sudden movements." Jack nodded, his heart racing as he followed Kastar onto Vraxian soil. 6 larger Vraxians waited for them, their scales shifting through various colors. Jack recognized this now as a form of emotional expression. Kastar stepped forward and made a series of complex sounds. The other Vraxians responded, their tones harsh and questioning. Several pointed at Jack, their scales turning a threatening red. "What are they saying?" Jack asked quietly. "They want to know why I bring human here. Why I not kill enemy." Before Jack could respond, 2 Vraxians moved forward and seized him. Despite Kastar's protests, they dragged Jack into the mountain city, through corridors of polished stone lit by bioluminescent plants. They brought him to a vast chamber where 7 elderly Vraxians sat in a semicircle on raised platforms. Their scales were faded but still shifted with color. One, whose scales bore intricate patterns, spoke in a deep, resonant voice. "Elder Voxrenath," Kastar explained, "leader of council." The elder spoke again, and Kastar translated. "You are first human to stand before us and live. Explain why we should not correct this anomaly." Jack swallowed hard. "I helped Kastar when he was injured, not knowing if he would kill me or not. I chose compassion over fear. I'm here because humanity has been wrong about your people for centuries, and it's time to correct that mistake." The translator conveyed his words. The elder's scales shifted to a contemplative blue. "Words are easy," Kastar translated for him. "Proof is needed." Another elder spoke, scales flashing angry red. "Humans destroyed 3 nesting colonies, killed thousands. Why trust this one?" Jack had no answer that could erase such history. The lead elder raised a claw for silence. "There is a way to know truth. The sharing." Kastar's scales paled. "Elder, the human may not survive." "What is the sharing?" Jack asked nervously. "Mind link," Kastar explained. "Vraxians can share memories, thoughts, very painful for non-Vraxians. Some go mad." The elder rose from his seat. "If you truly wish peace between our kinds, you will submit to the sharing. We will know your truth." Jack looked at Kastar, who seemed deeply concerned. But Jack knew this might be the only chance to prove his intentions. "I'll do it," he said firmly. The council chamber was reorganized. Jack was placed in the center of a circle formed by the elders. Kastar stood nearby, his scales showing patterns of worry. "Be calm," the lead elder said through the translator. "Open your mind." The elders extended their claws toward Jack. A strange sensation began, like pressure building inside his skull. Then pain exploded behind his eyes. Images flooded his mind, not his memories, but Vraxian ones. He saw the first contact with humans centuries ago, felt the confusion and fear on both sides. He experienced the devastating war that followed, the Vraxian civil conflict between those who sought revenge and those who still believed in peace. Simultaneously, he knew the elders were seeing his memories. His first meeting with Kaztar, the choice to help rather than run, the growing friendship between them. When it ended, Jack collapsed to the floor, gasping. The elders were silent, their scales shifting through complex patterns he couldn't interpret. Finally, the lead elder spoke. Kaztar translated with wonder in his voice. He says, "You have shown us what we have forgotten, that compassion can exist between different beings. The council will hear your proposal for peace." Jack looked up, still dazed but smiling. "Then let's begin." Jack stood tall despite his exhaustion as he faced the Galactic Council chambers on Earth. The room was packed with representatives from dozens of worlds, along with military officers, scientists, and media personnel. 3 Vraxian ambassadors stood beside him, their scales shifting with subtle colors that Jack had learned to read as a mixture of caution and hope. Admiral Davis glared from his position among the military delegation. "Lieutenant Jack Reeves, you stand accused of violating direct orders, stealing military property, and conspiring with a known hostile species. How do you plead?" "The situation is more complex than those charges suggest, Admiral," Jack replied calmly. "I'm here to present evidence that will change our understanding of the Vraxian species forever." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many humans still eyed the Vraxians with open fear. The central Vraxian, Elder Mokhtar, stood slightly forward, his massive frame commanding attention. "For 3 centuries," Jack continued, "humanity has believed Vraxians to be mindless predators. That belief was based on a tragic misunderstanding during first contact. Today, we have a chance to correct that error." Jack activated the display system. Images appeared showing Vraxian cities, their advanced technology, and cultural artifacts. The council watched in stunned silence as Jack presented recordings of his time on Vraxia Prime. "The Vraxians were once peacekeepers of the galaxy," Jack explained. "Their attempts at diplomatic contact were misinterpreted as hostile actions due to translator failures and their intimidating appearance." Admiral Davis stood up angrily. "This changes nothing. The fact remains that Vraxians have attacked human colonies for generations." Elder Mokhtar stepped forward. The translator conveyed his deep, resonant voice. "Some of our kind sought revenge after the initial conflict. Others tried to prevent these attacks. We fought amongst ourselves while our numbers dwindled. Those who valued peace eventually prevailed, but by then, we were nearly extinct and humans hunted us across the stars." A council member asked, "If what you say is true, why come forward now after centuries of hiding?" "Because of him," Mokhtar said, indicating Jack. "One human who chose compassion over fear showed us that coexistence might still be possible." The debate raged for hours. Jack presented more evidence, including data recovered from ancient archives that supported the Vraxians' account of history. Scientists who had examined the Vraxian language and technology confirmed their advanced nature, inconsistent with mere predatory instincts. The tide began to turn when Kaztar stepped forward to demonstrate Vraxian abilities that could benefit humanity, their natural understanding of spatial navigation that could revolutionize space travel, their medical knowledge that had allowed them to cure diseases humans still struggled with. "We do not ask for forgiveness," Kaztar said. "Only understanding. And perhaps in time, alliance." Footage of Jack and Kaztar's friendship had leaked to public networks during the hearings. People across Earth watched as a human and the galaxy's most feared predator worked together, communicated, and even shared moments of laughter. Public opinion began to shift. When the council finally called for a vote, Jack held his breath. The decision was not unanimous, but the majority ruled in favor of establishing formal diplomatic relations with Vraxia Prime. "Lieutenant Reeves," the council chairperson announced, "in light of these extraordinary circumstances, all charges against you are dropped. Furthermore, given your unique position of trust with both species, the council appoints you as Earth's first ambassador to Vraxia Prime." Jack looked at Kaztar in amazement. The Vraxian scales shifted to bright gold, the color of joy. 3 months later, Jack stood with Kaztar on a platform in Geneva as human and Vraxian leaders signed the first official peace treaty between their peoples. Researchers from both species had already begun collaborative projects. A cultural exchange program was oversubscribed with volunteers. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you found me injured?" Kaztar asked privately. Jack smiled. "Not in my wildest dreams. I just couldn't leave someone suffering, even if everyone told me you were dangerous." "One act of compassion," Kaztar observed, his scales shimmering with emotion, "can change the course of history." As they watched humans and Vraxians mingling cautiously but cordially at the reception, Jack reflected on how far they had come. The galaxy's most lethal predator had become humanity's most valuable ally, all because he had chosen to defy expectations and reach out in friendship when everyone else counseled fear. "This is just the beginning," Jack said quietly. Kaztar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, his version of a smile.